My name is Wilda Baptista. I'm 34, and tonight the cottage feels like a heartbeat. I can hear through walls, steady, stubborn, older than any of us. The radiators tick softly. The apple branches tap the kitchen window like someone politely knocking. I can smell lavender in the grout because Grandma Eleanor rubbed fresh sachets there every spring. Convinced scent keeps a home awake. It's past midnight, and the page is white as frost. I promised myself I'd write plainly, but nothing about family is plain. 6 months ago, Eleanor, 92, precise to the end, left me this Vermont stone cottage, 3 acres of shoulder-high grass and mountain air that tastes faintly of iron. People like to say house, but that's wrong. A house is square footage and tax assessments. This is where I learned to braid garlic, where Grandma marked my height on the pantry door with a carpenter's pencil, where the kitchen table still carries a shallow groove from the summer I refused to give up on calligraphy. It's worth around $450,000, the realtor whispered, reverent and predatory at the same time. Worth is a cheap word for what a place can hold. When the will was read, my mother, Patricia, pressed her lips into the smile she uses when she's performing forgiveness. Thin, white, a curtain pulled. My half-sister Ashley posted family time from the courthouse steps with a latte that had more foam art than sincerity. No one told me I was stepping into a role that would turn me overnight from daughter to gatekeeper. A week ago, they called a family meeting. You don't realize how much you still need your mother's voice to be safe until it isn't. I arrived at Patricia's condo with a lemon tart, bribe in the shape of dessert, and found Ashley already perched on the sofa, angled to catch the light. Beside her, Tyler, mustache and microphone voice, content creator in a beanie that said slow living. Sweetheart, Patricia began, and my spine did the thing it's trained to do around that word. Brace. Ashley's career is at a crucial point. She and Tyler need to move into the cottage. Not asked, announced. Ashley leaned forward, palms together like prayer. Wilda, it's temporary. A year, maybe 2. The authentic cottage aesthetic is exploding. We'd take exquisite care of it and document the restoration. Think of the exposure. The restoration? I said, too quietly. In my mind, Eleanor's hand skimmed the wainscoting she waxed twice a year. The cabinets she sanded herself. Restoration to what? Whiter. Tyler handled the pitch deck the way men handle traffic. They assume they'll merge. Your grandmother's legacy deserves audience, he said. We can partner with brands that respect heritage. Patricia, who has never believed anything counts unless someone claps, placed her fingers over my wrist. You can still visit whenever. You aren't using it enough, darling. Ashley is building something from nothing. I looked at my mother's framed photos on the mantel. There was my father, blurry in the way a man gets when a marriage is rewritten. There was Ashley in 6 separate sizes. There I was, once, small, the corner of my shoulder in someone else's celebration. I said I needed time. Patricia's face hardened, not anger, something more efficient. Family helps family, Wilda. Eleanor favored you because you were practical, but Ashley is the future. She understands how to turn a gift into momentum. It was so elegant, the insult, I almost admired it. Practical, as though tending a place you love is the lesser art. That night I walked the cottage from cellar to attic with a mug of chamomile, touching the things that were more her than objects can be. The iron bed frame that squeaked in 3 notes, G-A-D, the kitchen window latch that sticks in the rains, the penciled recipe for blackberry jam tacked behind the flour canister. More lemon, trust yourself. And I thought about my boyfriend, Noah Bennett, who had called from a site inspection in Providence to say simply, I'll back you, whatever you decide. He is not loud. He is a civil engineer and speaks in materials, load, span, cure. He asked if I wanted him at the meeting. I said no, thinking I could hold my ground alone. He didn't argue. He said, I'll be outside the door in my head. There is also Sienna Park, Noah's ex, more orbiting rumor than presence these days, who works in lifestyle PR. I've met her exactly twice, and both times felt like I was being measured for an eventual rebrand. When I checked my phone after the meeting, I saw a new follower among the flood, at Sienna Doe Strategy. She had liked 2 of Ashley's posts that week. A small chill climbed my arm. I wrote an email. It was careful. I said I loved my sister and wanted her to succeed. I said the cottage was not available as a residence. I offered a supervised weekend photo shoot as a compromise. I read it aloud to Noah on speakerphone and hit send. The response detonated. Patricia called. "You are hoarding family resources," she said, as if I had gone room to room with a sack marked mine. She itemized kindnesses from 20 years ago, like invoices, prom dress, one-time plane ticket, 3 nights on her couch after my first job ended, while Ashley posted a story titled, "When Blood Isn't Thicker Than Water," accompanied by very expensive tears. I drove north to breathe. The mountains help you hold a boundary because they understand edges. I turned into the gravel drive and felt a flash, wild and childish, safe. Then I saw the van. Tyler's. Inside, Ashley was measuring the living room windows and narrating in a hushed voice to her camera, "Original bones, a diamond in the rough, my family estate, my family estate." The words were oily in the air. "Out," I said, not loud, very clear. "Now." Ashley turned as if she'd been startled in a dream. "Wilda, we're just visualizing. Mom said we could stay. She's part owner." "You know that's not true," I said. "Grandma left the cottage to me." Explicitly. She blinked. Part of me wanted, ridiculously, to catch the blink and set it aside like a gem, proof that she can still be surprised by truth. Tyler started explaining creativity, which is always a warning sign. I walked to the kitchen phone, dialed the locksmith, and booked the earliest slot. It turns out there's a frequency at which rage is indistinguishable from resolve. They left, but not before Ashley completed her before tour. She whispered into the lens about painting the oak cabinets white, about lightening the visual load by removing the built-in bookshelves Grandma loved because they crowd the eye. She called the quilts sweet but dated, and my throat went hot. That evening I changed the locks, installed a security system, and sat at the kitchen table with Eleanor's tea set, reading the manual while the kettle sighed. Noah texted when I didn't answer his earlier call. "You okay?" I recorded the comforting noises, the creak of the stair, the hush of wind against stone, and sent them back. "This is what okay sounds like," I wrote. The next morning, Patricia and I spoke the last version of the conversation we've been having since I was old enough to pay my own rent. "I didn't lie," she said. "That cottage should be family property. Mother wasn't in her right mind when she wrote that will. She favored you because you're safe. Ashley is possibility." She was perfectly clear, I said. You know she was. A silence I used to rush into opened between us. I let it stay. Then Ashley posted a TikTok about toxic family hoarding generational wealth. It scratched across the internet like a match head, my DMs filled with strangers performing certainty. I blocked accounts, brewed coffee, walked the back acre, and promised the hill of Queen Anne's lace that I would not sell its view for likes. By dusk, a new notification appeared. Sienna Park had reshared Ashley's story with a string of solemn hands and the caption, "Telling hard truths, beyond the algorithm." Noah called immediately. He always knows when the floor shifts. "Do you want me to talk to her?" he asked, already bracing for the awkwardness of calling a woman he once loved to ask her not to stoke a fire under my life. "No," I said. "Let her watch. Let them all watch." From the pantry door, the pencil marks of my height, ages 7 through 17, looked like tally lines on a cell wall. I touched the highest one and felt something unclench. Boundaries, Eleanor taught me without words, are not fences. They are instructions for love. I turned on the porch light. The bulb hummed. Out beyond the apple trees, the dark gathered itself with the patience of an old friend. I sat with the cottage until the radiators settled and the night had nothing left to prove. Tomorrow I would call a lawyer, not to declare war, just to write my name, legibly, across what was already mine. The first frost of October came early this year. It silvered the cottage steps and made every footfall sound like a warning. I'd almost started to believe the storm had passed, that Patricia's silence meant surrender, that Ashley had found another backdrop for her curated authenticity. But when things go quiet in my family, it's rarely peace, it's rehearsal. 3 days after I changed the locks, I got a call from Robert, my neighbor, the kind of man who still fixes fences out of courtesy, not obligation. "Welda," he said gently, "your sister and her boyfriend are here again. Said they're doing measurements." My grip tightened around the phone. "You sure?" Pretty sure, he said, with the weary kindness of someone who's seen this pattern before. They told me they're moving in soon. Thought you'd given permission. I thanked him and hung up before he could hear my breath start to shake. My grandmother used to say the moment someone tests your boundary, they've already decided to cross it. When I arrived an hour later, the drive looked calm. No van, no movement. But the front door key turned too smoothly. Inside, the air was wrong. Not violated in a loud way, but rearranged. The kind of wrong that hides in symmetry. The books on the shelf were shifted by color. My grandmother's oil portrait had been replaced by a cheap landscape print. The quilt from my bed was gone, and on the table sat an open measuring tape and a half-empty oat milk latte. My phone pinged before I could even process it. Ashley's story, posted 5 minutes ago. So excited to share a sneak peek of our Heritage Home project. Can't wait to show you all the transformation. Authentic Home Series, Family Legacy. I press play. There she was, twirling in my grandmother's kitchen, talking about restoring her family estate. I shut the app, throat burning. For a second, I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream or laugh. Instead, I called the police. They were polite but unmoved. Family dispute, ma'am. Since there's no sign of forced entry and she's related, it's a civil matter. Civil. I wanted to ask what was civil about someone filming inside my home without permission. I spent that night locking every window and emailing my lawyer. The next morning, Noah drove up from Providence with coffee and a quiet fury that looked good on him. She's pushing for a reaction, he said. Don't give her one. Give her paperwork. He helped me install the rest of the security cameras and mounted one right above the old cherry tree facing the porch. This is your line, he said, tightening the last screw. Anyone crossing it will leave proof. That evening, my phone buzzed again. A message request from Sienna Park. Hi, Wilda. I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I've been consulting with Ashley on her brand strategy. She's just passionate, not malicious. Maybe there's a way to collaborate instead of conflict? Heritage restoration could be amazing PR for both of you. My skin prickled. Collaborate? She was trying to turn theft into a marketing partnership. I didn't reply. I just screenshotted the message and sent it to Noah. He called within seconds. She's crossing a line. I know, I said, and she's doing it smiling. Ashley's new posts started climbing in views. Her captions got bolder, restoring what was always meant to be mine, bringing new life to old spaces, honoring generations of strong women. I noticed she never said which strong woman. Patricia stayed quiet, but her silence was weaponized. When I called to confront her, she answered in that tired, theatrical sigh she uses to make you feel like the aggressor. Wilda, you're taking everything so personally. You've always had trouble sharing. It's my house, Mom. It was your grandmother's house, she said, drawing out the word like a knife. Family property belongs to the family. Something cracked inside me then. Not anger, but clarity. My mother wasn't confused. She was complicit. After that call, I started documenting everything. Screenshots, timestamps, footage. My lawyer told me to stay calm and gather proof. But calm is a fragile thing when betrayal wears your last name. That week, the online harassment began. Ashley's followers flooded my DMs. Why are you jealous? Let her live her dream. You're gatekeeping generational wealth. Some even left bad reviews on my law firm's Google page, parroting her phrases. One evening, I stood by the window, watching snow begin to fall, and felt a strange stillness. I wasn't crying or shaking. I was done reacting. That's when I realized what Grandma meant by strength. Not the noise of anger, but the quiet certainty of not moving an inch. I drafted a legal notice, formal, sterile, undeniable, and sent it to Ashley and Patricia. Cease all use of the property for filming or residence. Trespassing will result in legal action. No emojis, no explanations, just law. The next morning, Ashley posted again. This time, she tagged both me and Noah. Some people don't understand legacy until they lose it. Had family first, #unbothered. But the comments under her post were different now. A few followers began to question, wait, isn't this her sister's cottage? Didn't Grandma's will go to Wilda? Doubt had entered her audience, and doubt is an infection in influencer world. It spreads fast and kills quietly. Still, I couldn't shake the image of Sienna lurking behind Ashley's curated captions, feeding her phrasing like poison through a straw. That night, the red light of the porch camera blinked twice, then went dark. I stepped outside, frost crunching under my boots, breath fogging like smoke. The cold hit sharp as truth. Someone had disabled the system. The snow fell heavier, muffling the world. I whispered into the dark, not as a threat, but a vow. Touch this place again, and I'll bury you in receipts. The cottage didn't answer. It didn't need to. Its silence was agreement. 3 days after the cameras went dark, the cottage stopped feeling like home. It felt like evidence. When I pulled into the driveway that Friday evening, the air smelled faintly of sawdust and some artificial candle scent, white linen, the kind of sterile perfection Ashley loved. My heart sank before I even unlocked the door. Inside, everything looked staged. My grandmother's lace curtains, gone. The oak table replaced by something sleek and soulless. The antique armchair by the fireplace, gone too. In its place stood a matte white IKEA chair with a faux fur throw. I turned on the lights. My reflection in the window looked like a trespasser. The security system had been tampered with. Wires dangled near the router. The camera above the cherry tree had been unplugged deliberately, no sign of forced entry. They knew what they were doing. When I checked my phone, Ashley's Instagram feed hit me like deja vu. The cottage, my cottage, everywhere. Her captions were nauseatingly confident. Welcome to our authentic heritage retreat. Sustainably renovated Vermont stone cottage, honoring tradition with a modern soul. Home is where you reclaim your legacy. She wasn't just pretending to restore it, she was claiming it. The videos showed her cooking in my grandmother's kitchen, hosting friends from the creative community, and, God help me, filming yoga sequences on the back porch where Eleanor used to hang sheets in summer. The comments gushed. Goals! So inspiring. Where is this? I want to visit. My pulse thudded like a courtroom gavel. I went upstairs. The quilts, gone. Grandma's oil paintings, gone. In their place were mass-produced prints of mountains that looked like stock photos. Then, on the dresser, I saw a folder. Receipts, rental agreements, guest lists, each one stamped with a familiar logo, Airbnb. The cottage was listed as Authentic Vermont Escape, as featured on at Ashley Living Authentically. 3-night minimum, $300 a night. Dozens of confirmed bookings. I scrolled through the host dashboard she'd printed out. Under property owner, she had written her name. Her name. The breath left my body like a confession. I took photos of everything, each receipt, each listing, each signature, and emailed them to my lawyer, Sarah Dempsey, that night. Sarah called within minutes. Wilda, this is textbook fraud. Keep every piece of documentation. We'll issue a cease and desist immediately. I barely heard her. My hand brushed something under the dresser, a folded envelope marked guest keys. Inside, 2 spare keys labeled Patricia's copy. That's how she got in. My mother had made duplicates. The next morning, I called Patricia. I wanted an explanation, maybe even a hint of shame. What I got was worse. I told her she could use it, she said flatly. You're being territorial. This cottage was built for family. Family doesn't sell the furniture, Mom. She didn't sell it, Patricia said too quickly. She repurposed it. Repurposed? The antiques are gone. Grandma's quilts are probably in the hands of strangers. A pause. Then the softest dagger. You've always been sentimental, Wilda. That's why you'll never get ahead. That was when I knew. My mother wasn't confused. She was proud of Ashley's theft because it looked like success. I hung up and called Noah. It's worse, I said. He drove up that evening, silent until he saw the Airbnb paperwork spread across the table. She's operating a business inside your house, he muttered. That's criminal. And profitable, I said bitterly. $15,000 in a month. He exhaled slowly, rubbing his jaw. You need a restraining order. I need her to stop breathing my grandmother's air. We spent the night documenting every detail. Noah walked the perimeter, testing the locks again, checking for hidden cameras or extra routers. When he returned, he found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at an empty spot on the wall where Grandma's painting used to hang. Wilda, he said quietly, she can repaint walls, but she can't rewrite a will. I wanted to believe that. 2 days later, I got an email from Sarah. Ashley has filed a claim of tenant rights. She's alleging you gave verbal permission for her to live there. She what? I gasped. Sarah's tone was calm, lawyerly. She's building a timeline to support it. Posts, witnesses, maybe even texts. Witnesses. Of course. The influencers. And that's when it clicked. Sienna. Noah's ex had been commenting on Ashley's posts, resharing her stories, even tagging PR agencies. She was giving this circus credibility. Later that night, I received a message request. It was Sienna again. Hey, Wilda, I know things are tense, but just so you know, Ashley's making incredible traction. Maybe it's time to leverage that momentum instead of fighting it? I could help manage both your narratives. Keep it classy, profitable, and mutually beneficial. Mutually beneficial. She wanted to spin fraud into a joint brand campaign. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent the screenshot straight to my lawyer. The following week blurred into paperwork. Cease and desist letters sent. No response. Then, one morning, Noah texted me a link. At Ashley Living Authentically uploads new video, our cottage story. The thumbnail froze my breath. Ashley standing in front of my grandmother's rose bushes, holding a mug with the words, "Home begins here." I hit play. She looked directly into the camera. "This cottage has been in my family for generations," she said softly. "I inherited it from my grandmother, and I've been pouring my soul into restoring it for all of you to experience. I want to share this journey honestly with the people who believe in authenticity, legacy, and renewal." At minute 12, she mentioned a special opportunity. Links below to book a stay. That was it, the final proof. She wasn't hinting anymore. She was selling a lie. I forwarded the video to Sarah and wrote only 2 words. "We're done." She replied within the hour. "Perfect. This is our smoking gun. Fraud, theft, illegal subletting, and misrepresentation of ownership. I'll prepare everything. Keep copies of the video before she takes it down." But before she could act, the views exploded. 120,000 in a day. Hashtag trending. Hashtag heritage home dream. Ashley was getting everything she ever wanted: attention, validation, money, built on my grandmother's bones. I stayed up all night, pacing the cottage. At 3:14 a.m., a thought struck like lightning. The only reason she felt untouchable was because she thought family wouldn't press charges. She was wrong. When dawn cracked through the window, I was done being reasonable. "Game over," I whispered, opening my laptop and drafting the legal complaint. Outside, the mountains were wrapped in fog, and for the first time since Grandma died, I could almost hear her voice again. "Don't just protect what's yours, Wilda. Protect what's right." When the legal complaint was filed, everything happened fast, then slower than human patience should allow. Sarah, my lawyer, sent the cease and desist letter first, formally naming the violations: fraud, theft, vandalism, and unlawful subletting. But Ashley didn't back down. She doubled down. She posted another video 2 days later, 30 minutes long, shot like a documentary. The title, "Owning My Past, Restoring My Grandmother's Legacy." She started with soft piano music, candlelight, and a slow pan across my grandmother's kitchen. "This home," Ashley said to the camera, "has been in my family for 60 years. My grandmother passed it to me so I could continue her dream." Every word was a lie wrapped in nostalgia. And then came the worst part. She gestured toward a frame on the counter, a photo she'd stolen of Grandma and me together. She always told me, "Make it yours, Ashley," so I'm honoring her words. The comments exploded with praise. Heritage Home trended again. But this time, Ashley went too far. She linked her Airbnb listing directly in the description, inviting her audience to experience authentic cottage living. Experience authentic? That link was all Sarah needed. Within 24 hours, we filed formal charges, civil and criminal: fraud, theft, misrepresentation, and unlawful profit off family property. I sent every screenshot, every invoice, every video file. The police arrived at the cottage 3 days later to issue a seizure order. By then, Ashley was posting live, tears glistening, claiming I was destroying her dream out of jealousy. Her followers flooded my inbox again. "Why ruin your sister's life? You're bitter and lonely. She's doing something beautiful." But under the noise, a different sound began, a quiet shift. People started to fact-check her. Someone found a public record of Eleanor's will, proving I was the rightful owner. The comments turned, slowly, then sharply. "Wait, she doesn't own it? Isn't that fraud? She lied?" By the weekend, Had Justice for Wilda trended right beneath her own hashtag. When Ashley realized the tide was turning, she tried to spin it again, posting another tearful video. "My sister's a lawyer. She's bullying me. Grandma promised this to me. I don't deserve this hate." Her mascara streaked perfectly. Sienna had definitely coached her. I could practically hear the PR phrasing: promise, bully, hate. But then came the twist I didn't see coming. Tyler, the boyfriend, her cameraman, her partner in fraud, walked out. Publicly. He released a statement on his own channel, saying he thought Ashley had permission. that she'd told him it was a shared inheritance, that when he learned the truth, he couldn't be part of deception. He deleted their videos and moved back to Brooklyn. Within hours, tabloids picked it up. Patricia called me that night, her voice shaking, not with remorse, but rage. Wilda, how could you do this to your sister? It's just a house. It's not just a house, I said. It's Grandma's legacy, and mine. You're ruining her life over property. She did that herself, Mom. She was trying. You've never understood ambition because you've never had any. That was it. The last line of the last act between us. I hung up and haven't heard her voice since. A week later, the district attorney's office contacted Sarah. The interstate element of Ashley's Airbnb fraud meant it qualified for prosecution. She'd scammed guests across state lines using false ownership claims. When the warrant came through, I was sitting at the cottage kitchen table, sunlight spilling through the same windows Grandma once polished with vinegar. The officer handed me paperwork confirming property rights and restoration authority. The words blurred for a second. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath for months. Ashley was charged with fraud, theft, and property damage. She pleaded guilty after the DA presented her own video as evidence, her literal confession. Sentence: 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and restitution of $23,000. Her accounts were suspended for deceptive content. The empire of filters collapsed overnight. Sienna tried to distance herself immediately. Her PR firm posted a statement claiming she had advised Ashley on branding only, not ownership claims. She deleted the collaboration posts, but the screenshots lived forever. The following month, I walked through the cottage with a restoration team. Some antiques were beyond recovery, gone to shops or collectors, but a few were traceable. Sarah helped me reclaim what we could. The real surprise came from Robert, my neighbor. He knocked one morning holding a large cloth-wrapped bundle. Inside was one of Eleanor's quilts, roses on ivory linen, hand-stitched, edges slightly frayed. I found it at the flea market, he said. Recognized the pattern from your porch that summer you both made jam. Beneath the quilt was a yellowed envelope with Eleanor's handwriting. I hadn't seen it before. Inside, a note written in her careful cursive. To Wilda, who sees the value in quiet things. The cottage is yours, not because you earned it, but because you understand it. Take care of it. It will take care of you. I pressed the note to my chest. For the first time since the storm began, I felt warmth instead of adrenaline. Sarah called that afternoon. It's done. Legally, publicly, completely done. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like release. Outside, the mountains held still, like they'd been waiting for the noise to stop. Inside, I refolded the quilt, set it over the back of the library chair, and made tea in Grandma's chipped cup, the one Ashley called outdated. It wasn't victory tea, it was something quieter, something that tasted like peace coming home. 4 months later, the cottage breathes again. When I open the windows, the air smells like apple skins and old paper instead of anxiety. The garden's green, returning to life, and the mountains no longer feel like walls. They feel like sentinels. Ashley completed her probation at a food bank in New Jersey. I heard she hated every minute of it. Word travels even when you wish it wouldn't. She's living with a friend now, working as a receptionist at a dental office. Her Instagram was reinstated. Fewer than 10,000 followers, mostly bots, and forgiveness quotes in cursive font. She posts sometimes about growth through adversity. The comments are quiet now. Patricia, on the other hand, never apologized. Not once. She still posts about family disappointment and ungrateful children on Facebook. I stopped checking long ago, but a cousin sent me screenshots. She says I ruined the family's reputation. If keeping a roof upright and my sanity intact counts as ruin, then I'll ruin everything again. Noah still visits most weekends. He helped repair the front fence last month, hammering in new cedar slats while I planted tulip bulbs. We found a rhythm, quiet, steady, real. No filters, no performances. Sometimes he reads in Grandma's armchair while I write at the table. It's not the kind of love that shouts. It's the kind that stays. Sienna tried to reappear once. She sent me a message after the sentencing. Hope there's no hard feelings. PR gets messy sometimes. I didn't respond. There's no PR strategy for decency. The first snow of winter dusted the garden white again, and I stood outside, remembering the night I promised the hill of Queen Anne's lace I'd never sell its view for likes. I kept that promise. Now, when the wind hits the eaves just right, I swear I can hear Grandma's voice. half breeze, half memory. You did good, Wilda. You kept it whole. I framed her letter and hung it above the fireplace, beside the quilt Robert saved. When the light hits in the late afternoon, the stitches shimmer like they're still being made. Last week, I finally reopened the cottage for visitors, properly this time, through a licensed management company. The first guests were an older couple celebrating their 40th anniversary. When they arrived, the woman stood on the porch and whispered, "It feels like someone cared about this place." I smiled. Someone still does. They stayed 3 nights. When they left, they folded the linens neatly and left a note. "Thank you for sharing something real." Real. That word means more to me now than any influencer caption ever could. My life isn't dramatic anymore. It's deliberate. I write in the mornings, tend the garden in the afternoons, and host a book club twice a month. The women from the valley come with casseroles and old stories about Eleanor, how she fixed their fences, baked bread for funerals, taught them to prune apple trees without killing the buds. We drink tea from her china and sit in her library, the same shelves Ashley once wanted to paint white. Sometimes we talk about forgiveness. Mostly we talk about boundaries, the kind that keep love healthy, not distant. Every so often, a stranger online still sends a message calling me heartless or jealous. I delete them without reading. I've made peace with being the villain in someone else's story. Because in my story, the one that matters, I'm not a villain, I'm a caretaker. A woman who refused to let family ties become chains. Grandma left me more than property. She left me proof that you don't have to be loud to leave a mark, and that sometimes protecting what you love means enduring being misunderstood. Tonight, as I write this final line, the cottage is quiet except for the kettle's low hum. I pour 2 cups of tea, one for me, one for the woman who taught me what strength sounds like when it whispers. To Wilda, who sees the value in quiet things. I take a sip and smile. The cottage stands, so do I.